So this is the Rebel Stakes. It's a Derby prep at Oaklawn. It's their second following up the Southwest Stakes. It's the 11th race on Saturday's card, and it's run at a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds. And we'll take a look at the field. We'll see some familiar faces, most notably Timberlake coming off a layoff and following up his fourth in the Breeders' Cup. And then we've got Carbone, Common Defense, Magic Grant we saw in the Southwest Stakes, as well as Just Steel, who put together a second in that race. And then we've got a couple of new shooters. Time for Truth, who just comes off a second in the Ozark. And Tejon Pass, who's been running at Oaklawn fairly steadily. And Domatic, who's a Steve Asherson trainee who looks to have a bit of promise. So it's an interesting field. I think it's a little top-heavy. As you might expect, taking a look at it here. But we'll go through them one at a time. First being Carbone. We've had questions about Mitoli's and distance, and note the late fraction for Carbone has decreased as the distances in class have increased, which is obviously not a very good sign. This horse certainly has some quality, and being on the rail with not a lot of early speed in this race, he's certainly going to get to where he wants to, but I think he's got some limitations distance-wise. It appears that way. The Southwest Stakes, he wasn't, not doing better than 7th. He was up near the lead and just didn't take a step forward. So it might be a little early for this one. But again, the lack of early pace may keep him in the mix for a little while, but ultimately I like others better in this spot, and I'm not going to use them. Northern Flame, trained by Kenny McPeak, they always take a little time to get going, and this one looks to be on the right path. His race pattern suggests a move forward is likely, though if it rains, I would toss this horse. It doesn't look like he likes it very much. He kind of ran a dud in the street sense, and there may have been some other factors, but it looked more to me like it was just the surface. In the British Futurity, however, he did keep on well, and he was no match for Locked or the Wine Steward. He did wire the field last time, and I think that may speak to his quality over the last field than an actual need to the lead. He's certainly capable of rating, and I think that would be a very good place. Tactically, he's going to be in a good position, and he looks logical to move forward. So if the track is fast, I think he's one you certainly have to use. Pretty logical and a good price at 5-1. Common Defense didn't show any improvement with the class jump last time, and he looks to have plateaued to me. I don't want any part of him. I'll pass. Tejon Pass has been running at Oaklawn and really had no excuses in the last, especially attending the pace when you consider there's a short stretch for mile races at Oaklawn where it's all favoring early speed. Just really didn't have any excuse whatsoever, and for that reason, I can't see him here. You get a nice price, but I just don't see it, so I'm going to pass. Magic Grant, kind of the same thing. I mean, he didn't do anything in the Southwest Stakes. He could only manage 10th, and he's a late runner. You would have thought that they were trying to just get him to suck up to get into the exotics, and he couldn't do that. 50-1, sure, you want to put him underneath your try your super. I could certainly understand it, but I didn't see anything more than that. So to me, he's a pass. Dymatic is very interesting. You look at those connections you have to take seriously right away. Winchell Thurber, Steve Asmussen, Tyler Gaffleone, Gunrunner, Tappet on the bottom. Everything speaks two-turn stakes race for sure. And this one, in his last race, he did win, but he was extremely green. In the stretch, ducking in and out in the slop at Oaklawn. And as a gun runner, certainly the surface might have aided him for sure. But more so, I think the class of the race was a little light. And he's certainly getting better. There's no doubt about that. But he kind of has the feel to me of Gun Pilot from last year. He's making some strides. He's getting better, but he's just not ready to take that move forward yet. This is a lighter field that is to his advantage. He has the look of a wise guy horse to me, to be honest. I can certainly see him finishing underneath, but I think given this field, the price is going to be a little short. I wouldn't talk you out of using him underneath, but I don't think he's ready to win a race like this yet. So for me, I'm going to pass, but I could certainly see using him. So now we come to Timberlake. This is the horse we all want to see. And, had a good fourth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last time. And he acquitted himself very well, too. I mean, he had a very nice season. Um, but one thing I will mention is a lot of the horses who finished ahead of him who have come back to run haven't done terribly well. It's there's a little bit of me that wonders how good this crop really is. However, I think this one showed a lot of quality. His best race was around one turn in the mud, but he's also proven he can compete with the tops in the division. In particular, that Hopeful Stakes, I think he showed a lot of quality. He was coming off a long layoff, and he ran, I thought, the best race of anybody because the pace was just white hot, and he was the only one of the horses who attended it who stuck around in the stretch. But for New Telefella coming from out of nowhere, he would have won that race. So I think there's definitely a lot of quality here, and he's proven that he can fire off the bench. He's trained by Brad Cox. There's no reason to believe that he won't, and he's certainly the pick to win this race, and he's the one they all have to beat. Next level to me is kind of interesting. He's had a checkered career so far. He flamed out in the gun runner, trying to get the lead. He just was a disaster for him. But in the last race, they took him back, and he had a pretty tough trip. He had to swing out. He lost all kinds of ground 5 wide, and he still had plenty of run in the stretch with a really sustained drive all the way across. And if you consider that a learning experience, trying to do something he hadn't done before, I think that's a big positive coming into this race. Yes, it wasn't the greatest of fields, but I think that this one, having shown some in his back class, some prior quality, I think that's a really good sign that he showed that he's not one-dimensional and that he can rate. So at 30-1, I think this one is eligible to run a good race. And while I'm not sure he's a win candidate, I think you definitely want to think about underneath at a price for the exotics. Laganos was outclassed in the Smarty Jones. Tried to get the lead and it just didn't work out. But this one has responded to layoffs well in the past. He had a good third place at an optional claimer in November, his first around 2 turns. So I think he's shown some quality. Rating's certainly going to be a more promising prospect, I think, than trying to get to the lead. And I'm expecting this one to run a better race coming off the bench. And again, he'd have to take a significant move forward to overtake Timberlake or even Just Steel. But I think this one at 20-1 offers some nice value. And I'm expecting him to run a solid race. So I'll be using. Mena had a good second start. In an optional claimer at 30-1, or good second last time, I should say. His pace numbers and his class level markedly improved over prior, and he got a career high speed figure. Now, certainly, building off of that would put him in the mix here. But note, he was claimed earlier, so Brendan Walsh had given up on him, and I think that's maybe a bit of a red flag. Steve Hobby maybe has found the elixir for this one. Maybe the light bulb did go off. That's entirely possible. But I think a lot of people are going to see that. You're going to get a shorter price than you ought to. And you also can't discount the fact that regression is highly possible. So to me, it's more of a question of value with Mena. If you can get 20-1 or better again, I wouldn't mind using them. But if I get anything lower than that, I probably would leave out. Just Steel, to me, is a horse that is everything that you look for in horses on the Derby trail. He's progressing. He's learning how to run. He's learning how to marshal and manage his speed better. The last race, yes, Mystic Dan, clearly ran away with it. But throw Mystic Dan out of the race, Just Steel wins it. And he wins it pretty comfortably. The takeaway I got is that this horse, the coach is continuing to work with him to rate and be more comfortable managing his speed. And he's getting there, and his fractions indicate that. that he is getting more comfortable. I mean, he had a nice kick at the end of the race. So I think this horse, I'm not going to, he couldn't catch Mystic Dan. Nobody could. And I think Mystic Dan was highly aided by a golden rail. And also, he clearly relished the slop. But you take that out of the mix, and Just Steel, I think, ran a really nice race. And he's an obvious second choice here. With a little luck, he could, if he can take another move forward, he could certainly win this race. I think second is probably more likely, but to me, Just Steel is a horse you have to use. Woodcourt is owned by Cipriano Contreras as well as trained by him, and he's been doing just fantastic at Oaklawn. Manny Esquivel's been his top rider, and they've been a really great combination so far. He's got a 2-race winning streak, but you note in the last one, he saved all the ground with a run at the rail to get up, while Next Level in the same race had a much tougher trip, having to swing 5 wide and lost all the ground. And I thought Next Level looked like he had a lot more in the tank than Woodcourt did. He didn't improve speed figure-wise, and I don't really see a lot of signs of progression with Woodcourt. He seems to be in a plateau type of situation. So under, I think, is possible, but I want to have a really big price if I'm going to consider him, and I probably would toss. Time for Truth just ran in the Ozark Stakes behind Valentine Candy, who has been the best sprinter at Oaklawn amongst the 3-year-olds. This one I thought showed some nice grit, kept on, didn't give up, and is the problem you have here, of course, is the 13 hole for a horse who likes to be up near the lead, and it's his first time around 2 turns. I think the 2 turns part, he'll be okay, being by Omaha Beach and looking at Lucky underneath. And there isn't a lot of early speed, so it's possible he can get to where he wants to be, but finishing the deal, I think, might be a bit of a tall order. He's going to lose so much ground early on, having to hustle up for the lead. And while I think he's a nice horse, and he's a little intriguing, I'm going to pass at this stage. So we'll take a look and see how we're going to play this race. And of the early pace runners, I think Northern Flame makes a lot of sense. He would have to take another pretty big move forward to overtake Timberlake, but I think he's one we want to use. Timberlake is certainly one that I think is the logical win candidate here, and if he runs this race, he is going to win this. And then using horses Next Level, as I mentioned, I think offers outstanding value, and I really like in this spot to get into the mix. He's got a puncher's chance of coming from out of nowhere to win it, but I think he definitely can get into the money. Same thing with Laganos. I think he's poised to run a better race, and Just Steel, without question, is the clear second choice, and he hasn't done anything wrong, and if everything falls correctly, he's probably looking at another second. But he's a nice horse, and he continues to get better, and he's kind of lying in the weeds as far as I'm concerned on the Derby trail. So let's take a look at our wagering strategy. So a wagering strategy obviously isn't going to be too elaborate. Timberlake is the horse to beat, and I think it's logical that he will win this race. So we have to pick him and build around him as the top horse. We are not going to like the price, but it is a 13-horse field, so we won't get hammered like a 1-9. I don't think we will. Anyway, I hope not. But in any event, I think Next Level offers the best value. So I think an across the board bet, win, play, show, or just play show, because I think he's very likely to get under at a really nice price. That's to me the best value play. But we want to concentrate on Timberlake on top, and so I would go with an 7-11 cold exacta, and then just leverage that. And then do another one with Northern Flame, because they're probably going to be the 2 shortest prices. So we'll go 7-11 cold and 7-2 cold, staggering accordingly. And then we'll throw in another one with some value underneath with 7, with 8, and 9. And, you can always make money on an exacta when you've got a short price on top if you can get some value underneath. So that's a way to achieve that. And then in the trifecta, we'll use 7 on top with 2, 8, 9, 11. And then we'll do a couple more to account for if we get short prices in second. So we'll go 7-11 with 2-8-9, and then 7-2 with 8-9-11, and we can leverage those. And then we probably want to throw in a 7 with 2-11 as well, just to maximize our return on investment. But pretty obvious here. Timberlake's race to lose. Next Level to me offers the best value, and I think it's a pretty form-fitting race.